Hello everyone, it's Gio, and today we have another Trackmaster restoration. We are going to be fixing up a Hit Toy Company model of Rosie. Now before we get into it, I'm just going to say the obvious, one of two things. One, my camera decided that while I was disassembling the model for the first time, it would corrupt the video file, so unfortunately, I have 1 GB of non-playable video. And number two, there's a lot of fails in this restoration, but luckily as we make it to the end stretch, the model does survive. So I just wanted to make those clear in advance, as once you jump into the first bit of video, we're just scraping off the decals. And before we get into it, one last thing, I'd just like to ask if you would please, if you're watching this, consider subscribing, as I'm trying to grow the channel, and every little subscription helps. Anyway, it's time to get into the restoration. So starting off the restoration, I'm finishing to scrape the stickers off both sides of the model. Then after that, just to ensure that everything is in the best possible condition, I gave all the parts a wash in soapy water. And for the body shell, I just finished cleaning it off with a magic eraser. Then once that was done, I was going to start with the black detailing on the cab. Now, as in the intro I mentioned, there's going to be a lot of fails in this one. This is where the fails start to begin. Unfortunately, when you deal with Trackmaster models that are heavily played with, a lot of the time the edges on places just like the cab are scraped off, and the edges that are supposed to be very straight turn into softer edges. So unfortunately, it was really hard to pinpoint where the black started and ended on, but as we see later in the video, we get it perfect, well, at least almost perfect. And just some green painter's tape was used to stop this paint from bleeding through, but unfortunately this is painter tape from the dollar store, and it didn't work too well. Using a flat end screwdriver, I scraped off some of the excess black paint. And next was the running board. Just used some black paint to fix up the buffers and the coupling hooks. And then came my favorite, mixing paint. There are kind of two shades of pink on the running board. There's a lighter shade of pink on the running board, and then there's more of a darker shade where the pistons are. So I used the lighter coat as a base, and then after I mixed another portion of darker pink for the pistons itself. And this is just one of multiple coats I ended up doing on Rosie, just to make sure that the pink really popped out against the red of the running board. And I made sure to even put it on the section that is enclosed by the battery compartment, because you can see a little bit when the shell is over it. Now, as you can see here, I'm mixing the pink for the pistons, and as you can see right beside it, there's a really dark, more of a gray color that I accidentally mixed. But the pistons were very easy to paint, and just to ensure that I got them perfectly, I put some painter's tape around them and finished them off. And I'm just redoing those sections I did before, just to make sure the paintwork is flawless. Just doing some touch-ups on the pistons. Here's another time attempting to do the corners of the roof. Didn't turn out too well. Oh, and here comes the face. One of the hardest parts of the model that I had to do. This was one of the many attempts until I kind of gave up, and then I used paint pens. And here's the running board. The pistons are completely painted, and now I'm just applying a layer of Mod Podge to it, just to give it the perfect look. And here, replacing the wheel, one of the traction tires were missing and one was on, but it was extremely crusty, so I ripped it off and I put a new one on. And here is one of the hardest parts of the model. I decided to go a little extra and paint the rims of the wheels white. This turned out decent, and I should have waited till my paint pens came, but I decided to do them by hand at first, and let's just say it didn't look too well when I did them by hand. You can just see it's bad, and I had to do multiple coats, multiple layers of Mod Podge to finish it, to get just the perfect look, and I didn't even get the perfect look until those paint pens came. So we'll see them looking better close to the end. Right now, they're looking pretty bad. It was just a lot of trial and error, just coating them and painting them again and again. But luckily, the end result was quite pleasing despite the amount of pain these took to paint. And I put the new traction tires on, and it looks pretty good. Finally, here is where the paint pens came in, and they really saved the day. Here I'm applying some red to the pistons just to give them that extra detailed look, and it ended up looking fantastic. And here I'm just taking a scalpel to kind of scrape off as much as the white paint as I can from that fake middle wheel, and that was an absolute pain, and I regret doing it because I couldn't even get all of it out. Then with a white paint pen I came in and properly painted it, and it looks much better than it did before. And now the face. This is when I got my paint pens and I was basically able to do the face almost perfectly. Tip of the markers are pretty fine, so I was able to get a almost perfect face. The freckles are a bit big, as we'll see in a little bit, but I think it ended up looking pretty good, at least compared to the last one, or the last attempt I did. And here's one thing that the original Tomy model didn't do. It missed the pink rosy cheeks and the bit of pink under the lip. So I was able to get that, and I was pretty proud of that. And here is the application of the freckles and the eyebrow detail. And I think that looks pretty darn good. The eyebrows could use some work, but hey, I like it. Now I'm just finishing off the wheels. I'm just taking as much excess of the white paint off as possible, and then I'll be giving them one more coat with the paint pens and one more coat of Mod Podge just to make sure they're perfect. And the Mod Podge helps so when the engine is on the rails, no paint comes off. And as far as I can tell, no paint has been removed yet, so I'm happy. I used a pink paint pen in the set to add some more layers to the footplate just to make it look absolutely perfect. And the color pink that was in the set was an almost perfect match. It was a little white, a little lighter than I expected, but it worked perfect. And finally, the final assembly of the model. One thing I will note here is that you might have noticed either in the disassembly or this assembly that the battery contact is broken, but it was broken when I got the model, but I just put a piece of tin foil there, which is probably the most ghetto way to repair it, and it works perfectly. So the motor is in actually pretty good shape compared to other models in the lot that I got this from, and I'm have to say I'm very happy with it. Even though that contact, it could be better. I might take another broken model that's unrepairable and take the contact from that, but for now it still works perfectly with that tin foiled up one. So, and I mean, this is just for my collection, it's not for anyone else, so hey, that's all I can ask for. And you'll actually see a clip of the motor working in just a moment. As you can see right now, I'm just getting it screwed in. And there it goes. And this was my last final attempt at getting the roof fixed using the paint pens now instead of the hand paint. Didn't really do much to improve it, and I ended up staining the pink plastic below it with the amount of times that I applied and removed the black paint, which is an error on my end. I guess I know not to do that in future, but I think it could have turned out a lot worse. And it looks not half bad, personally. And just using some red paint to fix up the lining around the windows. It was pretty good, but just decided to put some just in case. And just touching up the buffers a little bit better than I could get with the paintbrush. And you may have noticed at the beginning I scraped those bruised decals off the side. That means after this last layer of Mod Podge is applied, we are going to get to my favorite portion of all, and that is digitally making the graphics. And I want to give a shout out to Super on the Blue Plastic Tracks forums, who made a comment on the Charlie restoration about that. Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoy this sequence as well. Now, doing the decals wasn't too hard, because Rosie's paint job is pretty basic as far as the paint jobs on Thomas and Friends characters go. It's mostly just some rectangles with red lining, so I was able to easily make that on GIMP. I traced the original decals, and then I just added a red layer around them, and they were perfect. Then I printed them out, added a kind of a bit of a lamination to it. I'll do a video detailing how I make decals in future, but I printed them out and then I glued them on. I didn't use sticker paper just because I didn't have any, but really all you need is paper and a glue stick to make it work perfect. And there she is, all restored. This was quite an undergoing task. It was a bit harder than I thought it would be, but the end result was oh so worth it. I think it turned out really well, as you can see in the before and after posts. And as a first for this series, here is Rosie running on the layout. I have one of her balloon cars. Unfortunately, the second one wasn't in the lot, but there she is on the layout. I hope you enjoyed this restoration. Hopefully there should be another one coming out soon. And that's all for now. My name is Gio. That was a Trackmaster Restoration. Please subscribe to the channel and support these videos. More will come soon. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.